so let's kick it off. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. So my name is Nicky. I'm responsible for DeFi at Taiko. So if you're building some interesting applications on the DeFi side, please feel free to reach out. Also in the space since 2017, started my career in crypto space in the crypto exchange, and then worked for a crypto custody solution provider, worked for the likes of Near, Neon, and Talos prior joining to Taiko. And please feel free to actually reach out to me on Telegram. So my Telegram is Nicky Chalabi. And if you want, feel free to give a follow on Twitter. No pressure, not needed. But if you feel like, please do it. So let's kick it off. So, okay, I would like to start actually with this slide. And the reason why, because like, you know, when we're talking about RWAs, and if we look back at the history, right, of the space, so you are all familiar, I guess, with the term STO, right, security token offering, which actually kickstarted, I would say, end of 2017, 2018, because like people started actually talking about like tokenizing the assets. And essentially, like back then, there were different projections. I remember like reading reports back then, like by 2030, like the like market size, the total tokenized market size will reach around 16 trillion. Of course, over the course of years, it has changed, and actually, I would say the predictions have become more realistic, given how market grew. And currently, like for example, if you look at the report by McKinsey, which you can find online, it's like the market size is expected to reach approximately 2 trillion by 2030. And in the case of bullish scenario, it's expected to reach actually 4 trillion. Of course, we would like to hope for more, but at the moment, these are the estimations. And if you look at it, you know, like from the assets point of view, it's mostly like a cash and cash equivalents, like cash deposits, bonds, ETNs, and ETFs, which makes the most sense because that's like basically what the users or what the TradFi people also are looking into. Also, like, why RWAs, right? And what are their benefits? Why do we care so much about it? And why do we really want to jump into this actually market or into this area? So first of all, what are RWAs? Those are the assets that actually exist outside of Web3, right? So we hear about them all the time. We actually see them around. Those are like financial instruments, commodities, real estate, art, right? So we've heard a lot of times, for example, about companies tokenizing art, or like, for example, you know, people want to invest in a luxury property, but like they don't want to like buy the whole property themselves. They would like to buy, like have this fractional ownership. And basically what the process of tokenization includes, it actually takes the assets and converts them into digital tokens. And why is it important? Why do we want to tokenize, right? And one of the key messages like that I would like to share is that like fractional ownership is very important. So if, for example, there is a beautiful painting by Picasso or by Monet, and you want to like kind of have the exposure to fine art in your portfolio, but like you don't want to buy or own the like the single painting, you would like to kind of like, you know, participate in the fractional ownership, right? So, and essentially you would like to kind of like maybe buy a certain fraction of it and have the exposure to this painting in your portfolio. And that's the idea. And which means that this can also lead to more liquidity within this market, which is currently like not there, I would say, when it comes to the likes especially of tokenized, of art and property markets. And also, you know, like what it brings to the space is the transparency and security, right? So first of all, ownership records are immutable and verifiable. Of course, there's always, I would say, a conversation around like, okay, should this be public? Should this be on private chain? But it depends again, but nevertheless, like it does bring that. And also it reduces the intermediaries, which are like third parties which are involved in this process, that you wouldn't want to actually have those third parties, and that charge you also the like, you know, intermediary fees. So, and what are the current challenges? I would say that the current challenges actually haven't really changed since, I would say, 2018. they've been there. I mean, we have actually got maybe a better understanding of what's going on in the market in terms of regulatory framework and so on, but they still remain. And that's, I think, and I really hope that by a certain period of time, we will get those resolved. So first of all, lack of clear frameworks, right? Like what is really missing is that like we don't have this homogeneous framework amongst different regulators or different jurisdictions, and essentially that kind of poses a delay in the growth of this space, I would say. And then of course compliance burdens. How are you going to handle compliance on this side, right? How are you going to check the information? Like, it's again not homogeneous as well. Then, of course, like what is really important for RWAs, especially when we're talking about tokenized assets and so on, you would like to trade those tokenized assets. The problem is that currently there are no secondary markets to a major extent. Of course, there have been certain developments in this area as well. Like, for example, there's like DGFT, a Singaporean-based project. They have like attained certain regulatory approvals. But in order actually for you to operate a secondary market for like tokenized assets, which are considered as securities, you actually need to obtain like regulatory frameworks and approvals in order to do so. And then, of course, like the other case is the custody and settlement, which is another problem that a lot of like financial institutions raised. And then the other one is the interoperability issues, because we have so many chains, like, and how are you going to resolve that interoperability issue when it comes to the RWAs? And the other part, since I haven't seen like actual majorly improved since 2018, I would say, especially when the topic of STOs was booming, is the market adoption, right? So we do have, unfortunately, lack of awareness. I would say a lot of like Web 2 or like, TradFi people, they still don't trust Web 3, and moving, like having their own, the assets on chain. And of course, there are like other issues such as like smart contract risks and other technological issues that also impact the adoption of this space in general. So, RWAs in DeFi, and this is where I'm very bullish on, and I think that's gonna actually change the DeFi landscape and bring more adoption, because first of all, it's gonna bring a different breed of users. So currently, if we are actually like kind of, trying to kind of migrate the liquidity from one chain to the other chain by offering higher incentives, the RWAs will actually bring novel users into the space, which is very important, because as you may see currently, like the liquidity is very scarce, and essentially it's the same of set of the users like moving from one chain to the other chain. So and we actually see like RWAs gaining certain adoption within the DeFi space. So for example, like if you check the likes of Maker, RWA, now Sky, like by MakerDAO, and then like we'll see also the likes of BlackRock and Franklin Templeton actually leading the way and working with different chains to kind of provide different solutions for their client base. And in fact, like majority of the, solutions that we see in the space, they do actually focus on the yield-bearing solutions, right? So to offer additional yield to their customers or to their users to ensure that, like, they get this additional yield by investing or holding that asset. So for example, we have like the likes of Usual, Hashnode YC, and a famous one, Ondo. And then, like, of course, there are also cases of investments and ownership of physical gold, like, for example, Paxos and Tether Gold. They're also gaining certain adoption now. And why is it important that we have this in the DeFi space? Like, why do we need to bring again those RWAs on chain? Because, first of all, this is a market that's 24/7, like people can actually access it anytime, it never stops, as you may know. And then you can program and automate the contracts, like it's pretty easy. And it's composable as well. So it does bring the composability that's currently missing, I would say, in the traditional financial space. And this is actually example of Sky, like previously MakerDAO. Why I would like to mention this example, you can actually go to the Dune dashboard created by Steakhouse and check MakerDAO. Because MakerDAO or Sky now, they were the early adopters actually of investing in RWAs. So, and they diversified their treasury. And you can see, for example, revenues composition monthly, like, and you can see like which, how big is the chunk of RWAs there. And then also like assets by the collateral type. So, and you can access this dashboard on Dune. So RWAs and rollups. So why are we talking about like RWAs and rollups? Why don't we just say like, okay, RWAs should be on Ethereum and that's it, right? So as you may know, like rollups are here to scale Ethereum, and essentially like when we're talking about the solution, bringing RWAs to rollups, we're also implying that it means that those will include lower transaction costs, which make the RWAs more practical and essentially like inherit the Ethereum security, which is very important, especially when we're talking about the financial institutions or I would say TradFi people. They really do care about the security and the centralization. And also like what's really important is like we've seen kind of institutions entering the space, for example, the likes of BlackRock speaking about RWAs. And as a matter of fact, like when we look at different chains, right, like where do you see the most actually action happening? And of course, it's on Ethereum, right? So when it comes to DeFi, Ethereum is still the one that's leading this game. And there's much more liquidity and users and different proven dApps that are there that have been in existence, I mean, since DeFi summer. And essentially, like when institutions look at it, they're like, okay, most of these dApps or most of these solutions are on Ethereum, so we really need to work with a chain that's already there, that's providing trusted solutions, and that we can actually also trust and essentially direct our users. And what is really important when it comes to rollups is basically the composability with the Ethereum ecosystem, right? So you have the same tooling across all the rollups, you have liquidity pools, you have different, I would say, you're pretty much using the same infrastructure more or less. And then also like really important, like the other case which is important, which is still not there, it's the interoperability and liquidity portability. So of course we want the shared liquidity and bridging standards. And currently like what we have of course in the multi-chain space, which is a fragmented liquidity, and we also do see it across rollups as well, like the liquidity currently, unfortunately to a bigger extent, is fragmented, which needs to change. And the one thing that I mentioned already is, of course, the trust part, where like institutions do trust actually Ethereum. And if you have worked, for example, with the financial institutions, like they're like, when you do the RFPs or RFIs, they do ask all those questions when it comes to the decentralization, when it comes to your technology, and they want to ensure that this is the best solution they can provide to their users or customers, and essentially to ensure that, okay, like nothing can happen or nothing can go wrong there. So why based rollups? I mean, I don't know how much you know, guys, about based rollups, because a lot of the times based rollup gets confused with base. Just a side note, we have nothing to do with base. So based rollups are different. And I mean, like we actually, as Taiko, we are the first based rollup, and we launched on mainnet in May of last year. And what's really important about the base rollups is the fact that the consensus, the settlement layer, the data availability layer is all on Ethereum. When it comes to the execution layer, the base rollups execute transactions off chain. And some of the key features include the fact that, for example, all MEV flows to L1 validators. And then also when it comes to the sequencers, our sequencer is decentralized because it inherits the liveness of L1 and the centralization of L1, which is very important. Actually, like when we were building Taiko, like our aim was to kind of create, like, to reach this goal, right? When in the space where actually other chains or rollups were building centralized sequencers, we were kind of focused on building a decentralized sequencer and showing the world that, okay, this can be the space that this can be achieved. And yeah, we do have a very highly Ethereum aligned roadmap. Also, like, we're very composable with the DeFi native infra. And soon we will be actually having like a big, major, I would say, technical milestone release, which will be base pre-confirmations, which will improve the UX and UI much more and make the chain cheaper and faster. And yeah, so base rollups, especially those like Taiko, we do believe that offer the best foundation for the RWA adoption, because first of all, we do inherit pretty much everything from Ethereum. And yeah, we're here. If you have interesting projects or you're building something, please feel free to reach out, and we're looking forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicky. Huge round of applause.